I stared at my phone screen, the banking app's balance mocking me with its single digit, $12.47. Just yesterday there had been $80,000 in my account. Money I'd saved over 6 years working double shifts as a nurse, carefully setting aside every extra penny for my dream of opening my own medical clinic. Now it was gone. My hands trembled as I clicked through the transaction history. A single transfer. $79,987.53 to James Wilson, my brother. The same brother who was getting married tomorrow in what our mother kept calling the society wedding of the year. The timestamp on the transfer was 3:27 a.m. I had been working the night shift at the hospital, saving lives while my own brother was stealing my life savings. Emma. My colleague Sarah's voice snapped me back to reality. Your brother's online too. Says it's about the wedding tomorrow. I picked up the phone, my knuckles white against the receiver. James. Hey sis. His voice was cheerful, casual, as if he hadn't just committed fraud. Just making sure you're still coming tomorrow. Olivia wants all family members there by 9 a.m. for pre-wedding photos. Funny you should call. I kept my voice steady. I just checked my bank account. Pause. Then a laugh that made my blood boil. Oh that. Thanks for the wedding fund, sis. I knew you'd want to contribute to our special day. Though honestly, it barely covers the flower arrangements. I closed my eyes, remembering all the times I'd covered for James growing up. All the times I'd loaned him money that he never repaid. All the times our parents had dismissed his mistakes, because he was their precious only son. That money wasn't for you, James. It was my savings. I need you to transfer it back. Now. Another laugh, more dismissive this time. Don't be selfish, Emma. This is my wedding. Besides, I had access to that account for emergencies, remember? This was an emergency. Olivia wanted imported roses for the centerpieces. He was right about one thing. 2 years ago, when he'd been between jobs again, I'd added him to my account so he could access emergency funds for food and rent. I'd never gotten around to removing him, never thinking my own brother would steal from me. Imported roses are not an emergency. I gritted my teeth. That money was for my clinic. That little pipe dream? James scoffed. Come on, Emma. We both know you'll never actually open a medical practice. You're just a nurse. Leave the big achievements to those of us who can handle them. The casual cruelty in his voice made me grip the phone tighter. Transfer. Back. Can't. He sounded almost gleeful. Already spent most of it. The flowers, the extra champagne fountain Olivia wanted, the crystal party favors. But hey, think of it this way. You're contributing to the most important day of my life. Mom and Dad are so proud that we're all pitching in. Of course they were. Our parents had already refinanced their house to pay for the venue and catering. They'd never questioned why James suddenly had extra money for all the luxurious additions to the wedding. They probably assumed he'd gotten another promotion at the investment firm where he'd somehow maintained a job despite his perpetual incompetence. James, what you did is fraud. It's illegal. Oh please, he sneered, his fake cheerfulness dropping away. No one's going to believe you. I had legal access to that account. As far as anyone's concerned, this was a gift from a loving sister to her only brother on his wedding day. Now, are you coming tomorrow or not? Olivia will be devastated if you ruin the photos. I thought about Olivia, his fiancée from a wealthy family, who'd never worked a day in her life. She'd spent months bragging about their fairy tale wedding, constantly comparing it to her friends' modest celebrations. Oh, I'll be there, I promised, my voice cold. Wouldn't miss it for the world. He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat there in the hospital break room, surrounded by the scent of disinfectant and coffee, thinking about the past 6 years. The double shifts, the missed holidays, the exhaustion, all to save for my dream. All gone because my brother wanted a bigger wedding. Everything okay? Sarah asked, noticing my expression. No, I replied, pulling up my email. But it will be. I spent my lunch break contacting my bank's fraud department, but as James had predicted, they were hesitant to act since he had legal access to the account. Next, I called 3 different lawyers, but they all said the same thing. Proving criminal intent would be difficult. By the end of my shift, I had a plan. It wasn't the smart plan or the safe plan. But it was the plan that would make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of person James Wilson really was. That evening, I went through my files, finding every record of every loan James had never repaid. Every bounced check, every desperate late-night call for money. I dug out the credit card statements showing how he'd maxed out my emergency card 2 years ago. I compiled bank statements, text messages, emails, 6 years of financial abuse carefully documented. Then I called my friend Michael at the investment firm where James worked. "Emma, what's up? Remember when you offered to help me review my finances? I need a favor." Michael had been trying to ask me out for months, but I'd always been too busy working extra shifts to date. Now his crush was going to come in handy. "Anything for you," he said eagerly. "I need information about James's work accounts. The ones he manages for clients." There was a pause. "Emma, that's confidential information." "Michael," I kept my voice soft, "has anything seemed odd about those accounts lately?" A longer pause. "I can't. I shouldn't. Please. Lives are at stake." It wasn't exactly a lie. My life savings certainly was. I heard papers shuffling. There have been some irregularities. Small amounts missing, covered up by fake returns. I've been gathering evidence for the compliance department. My heart raced. "Send me everything you have. Emma, this could get me fired." "I'll take you to dinner next week," I promised. "That new French place you mentioned." 10 minutes later, my inbox dinged with a folder of documents that made my blood run cold. James hadn't just stolen from me. He'd been embezzling from his clients, using the same techniques he'd used to drain my account. I stayed up all night printing documents, organizing evidence, creating a presentation that would destroy my brother's carefully constructed facade. By morning, I had 3 identical folders ready. One for Olivia's parents, who had insisted their future son-in-law was a financial genius. One for the investment firm's compliance department. And one for our parents who needed to see exactly who they'd raised. As I got dressed for the wedding, I chose my outfit carefully. A simple blue dress that would look perfectly appropriate in all the pre-wedding photos. Photos that would capture the last moments before I burned my brother's life to the ground. Mom called just as I was leaving my apartment. "Emma, darling, don't forget we need all family members here by 9 a.m. sharp. And please tell me you're not wearing anything inappropriate." I thought about the folders in my bag, about the evidence of years of theft and fraud. "Don't worry, Mom. I'm dressed exactly right for the occasion." "Good," she sighed with relief. "And isn't it wonderful how your brother was able to add all those beautiful touches to the wedding? The crystal centerpieces are absolutely divine." I gripped my steering wheel tighter. His mom. Simply divine. The drive to the luxury hotel where James was having his wedding felt surreal. Every mile marker seemed to tick down to an explosion I'd set in motion. Part of me felt guilty, not for what I was about to do, but for not doing it sooner. The Grand Plaza Hotel's lobby was an explosion of white roses and crystal decorations. My $80,000 on grotesque display. Guests in designer clothes milled around, exclaiming over the extravagance. Each compliment felt like a knife twisting in my chest. "Emma." My mother's voice cut through the crowd. She wore an elaborate designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. "Where have you been? The photographer is waiting." She grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the hotel's grand staircase where the family portraits would be taken. James stood at the top, looking immaculate in his tuxedo, Olivia beside him in a dress that could have funded a small hospital. "You look nice," Mom said, eyeing my simple blue dress with barely concealed disappointment. "Though you could have made more of an effort for your brother's special day." I smiled, patting my bag where the folders sat heavy with evidence. "Don't worry, Mom. I'm about to make this day very special indeed." The next hour was torture. Standing beside my brother, forcing smiles as the photographer positioned us for shot after shot. James kept shooting me suspicious glances, probably wondering why I wasn't making a scene about the money. "Family photos complete," the wedding planner announced. "The ceremony will begin in 30 minutes. I watched as Olivia's parents approached James, beaming with pride. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, old money and older connections, had been thrilled when their daughter got engaged to a brilliant young financial advisor. "James, darling," Mrs. Harrison gushed, "everything is simply perfect. The flowers alone must have cost a fortune." "Only the best for your daughter," James replied smoothly, wrapping an arm around Olivia. though I have to thank my sister Emma for her generous contribution. All eyes turned to me. This was my moment. About that contribution, I said, pulling out the first folder. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, I believe you should see this before the ceremony. James's face went pale. Emma, don't. These are bank statements, I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent foyer, showing how my brother illegally transferred my entire life savings, $80,000, to pay for your daughter's imported roses and crystal centerpieces. Mrs. Harrison's perfectly painted lips formed an O of shock. Mr. Harrison, a renowned corporate lawyer, snatched the folder from my hands. But that's not all. I pulled out the second folder. These documents show how James has been embezzling from his clients at Harrison and Myers investment firm. Small amounts, cleverly hidden, but adding up to over $500,000. You're lying. James lunged for the folder, but Mr. Harrison moved faster, already flipping through the pages with practiced eyes. These transaction records, he muttered, his face darkening. These client account discrepancies. Emma, stop this at once, my mother hissed, grabbing my arm. You're just jealous of your brother's success. I yanked my arm free. Success? Let me show you what real success looks like, Mom. I pulled out the third folder. Here's every loan James never repaid. Every credit card he maxed out. Every time he stole from me while you looked the other way. 6 years of financial abuse, carefully documented. The wedding planner was having a meltdown in the corner. Guests were whispering. Olivia stood frozen, her perfect makeup starting to run as tears formed in her eyes. You stupid bitch, James snarled, his charming facade cracking completely. You really think anyone will believe you over me? I'm the successful one. I'm the one who's been stealing from his clients? Mr. Harrison's voice could have frozen hell. These records are quite clear, James. Account manipulation, unauthorized transfers, fabricated returns. Daddy, Olivia whimpered. He said he earned that money. Earned it. I laughed bitterly. James hasn't earned anything in his life. He steals, lies, and manipulates, and you all enabled him. But not anymore. I turned to the growing crowd of horrified guests. I apologize for interrupting this lovely wedding, but I thought you should all know what your gifts are really funding. My brother is a thief and a fraud, and I have proof. I'll have you arrested. James shouted, his face purple with rage. You've ruined everything. No, James. Mr. Harrison's voice was deadly quiet. You ruined everything. And as a member of the firm's board of directors, I'm calling the police. What happened next was chaos. James tried to run, only to be tackled by Olivia's ex-military uncle. My mother fainted dramatically, though no one rushed to help her. My father stood silent, finally facing the truth about his precious son. The police arrived within minutes. Apparently, Mr. Harrison had some significant connections. As they led James away in handcuffs, he kept screaming that it was all my fault, that I was just jealous, that I'd never amount to anything. I watched calmly, remembering every dismissive comment, every stolen dollar, every time my parents had praised his success, while ignoring my hard work. Olivia's mother was having hysterics about the ruined wedding. The guests were being sent home, clutching their crystal party favors, perhaps the last piece of their investment they'd ever see. The imported roses wilted in their vases, just like James's carefully constructed lies. Miss Wilson. A police detective approached me. We'll need your statement about the unauthorized transfer from your account. I handed him my carefully organized evidence. I have everything documented, detective, and I believe the firm's compliance department will be very interested in the rest. As the chaos swirled around us, Mr. Harrison pulled me aside. I owe you an apology, he said grimly. We should have looked closer, asked more questions. The firm will obviously return your stolen funds with interest. Thank you, I replied, but that's not enough. I want to press charges. All of them: theft, fraud, embezzlement. Let him face the consequences of his actions for once. He nodded approvingly. I'll personally recommend our best criminal prosecutor. My mother finally recovered from her fainting spell, mascara streaking her face. How could you do this to your brother? She wailed. On his wedding day. I turned to her, finally letting years of suppressed anger surface. How could you let him steal my life savings? How could you praise him for buying expensive flowers with stolen money? How could you spend my entire life telling me I was less than him? But he's your brother. Not anymore, I said firmly. I'm done covering for him, done making excuses, done watching him steal and lie while you pretend not to see it. I walked out of the hotel into the bright summer morning, leaving behind the ruins of what was supposed to be the society wedding of the year. My phone was already buzzing with calls from reporters. Apparently, the arrest of a financial advisor at his own wedding was quite newsworthy. 3 months later, I sat in my newly opened medical clinic, paid for with my recovered savings and the generous interest Mr. Harrison had insisted on adding. The local newspaper article about James's conviction hung framed on my wall. 20 years for fraud and embezzlement. Olivia had moved to Europe, probably to escape the scandal. My parents weren't speaking to me, still unable to accept that their perfect son was a criminal. But for the first time in my life, their silence didn't hurt. My clinic was thriving, built on hard work and honest money. Every day I helped people who truly needed it, no imported roses or crystal centerpieces required. Sarah stopped by during her lunch break, glancing at the newspaper article. Any regrets about the wedding? I thought about James in his prison jumpsuit, about my mother's willful blindness, about all the years I'd spent working double shifts while my brother stole from everyone who trusted him. Just one, I replied, straightening my doctor's coat. I wish I'd done it sooner. A young patient came in, clutching her mother's hand. As I knelt to speak with her, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window, confident, successful, free from the burden of family lies. James had been wrong. I wasn't just a nurse with a pipe dream. I was a healthcare provider, a business owner, and most importantly, someone who finally stood up for what was right. The crystal centerpieces from the wedding had been seized as evidence. I heard they were being auctioned off to help repay James's victims. Somehow that felt like perfect justice. His stolen symbols of success sold to make amends for his crimes. Sometimes at night I still thought about that moment in the hotel lobby, when years of family dysfunction finally exploded into truth. It hadn't been pretty. It hadn't been kind. But it had been necessary. My brother had stolen my savings, thinking he could get away with it like he had so many times before. Instead, he'd given me something priceless: the courage to finally stop him. The imported roses had wilted long ago, but my truth? That was blooming stronger every day.